Welcome back, everybody, to a special edition of Bearded, Wholesome, and All Things Baltimore. This is season 4, episode 9. I am joined today by a Baltimore Ravens legend, Super Bowl 47 champion, and former All Pro running back, Ray Rice. Ray, what's going on, man?
What's going on? What's going on?
Thank you for joining the show. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy dad schedule. Gave you a nice little introduction. We put a little video together for you. How is everything going, man? How's post football life treating you these days?
Man, everything's good, man. Everything's going full circle. Like you said, my kids are in sports. My son plays football and basketball. My daughter does lacrosse, basketball, gymnastics. So, uh, needless to say, there's no off season. That was the football mindset anyway. So, there's no off season. My kids, my daughter especially, she's 11. My son is 6, and but their training schedule, school, it's always something. So I'm blessed and fortunate to be able to be there in front of the kids with them, and it's something that you just don't take for granted. You watch the game of football. We all love the game of football, but at the end of the day, everybody's day comes to an end, regardless of how it looks, and but you still have to be a parent. You still have to be a family
Absolutely.
man. You still have to do what you got to do. So this other side's been good on top of doing a lot of nonprofit work with kids, charity things, and just teaching my kids that it's a blessing to be a blessing, and it's always good to bless someone else. So it's always something that I've always did when I was playing. Now that I could teach my kids.
That's the most important thing. I know that it's crazy that I was we were able to make this work, especially on this week out of all weeks. 10 years ago, you were just celebrating your Super Bowl championship with the Ravens. And then here we are a couple of days out from the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the Eagles on Sunday. I wanted to ask you, since this, I know you can kind of put yourself back in that mind frame for a second. What was it like preparing for the Super Bowl as opposed to every other game of your career? Did you change anything, or was it a different preparation process?
Well, your mind tried to stay the same, but I mean, to basically um, turn New Orleans into Baltimore was kind of, that's a different thing. We've tried to make everything as if we were, at our home place, in regards to practice and preparation. But needless to say, you had media day. You're there for a whole week, so you had to make that your home, and it was different. But it's the Super Bowl. It's not supposed to be something that feels like normal. So, um, but yeah, it was definitely an experience that you know. To those who went many times, like everybody can say it's a familiar thing. I mean, you look at a guy like Tom Brady, how many times he's been there. You look
10
at you look
times.
at those you look at those situations. It's like, man, that's a lot of times to go to the Super Bowl. So it might be familiar for him, but to play in 3 AFC championships, and I only went to one Super Bowl. I mean, you could, you know, that just tells you what it is right there.
I can imagine. I know with you being in the league for as long as you were, and the demand for tickets and swag from family and friends, and it might not be the same for everybody. I don't know because I was never a pro athlete, but I'm sure when the Super Bowl came and the availability that you had to bring family along, I'm sure that was a very stressful additive that not many people realize as a fan or as a spectator, to where you have that added pressure of being away from home for a week. It's the biggest game of your career. And then you got everybody wanting a ticket that sells for $5,000 on StubHub, So was that an added distraction to you, or did you manage to put that fire out early, so to speak?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a distraction, but it was expensive. Like, I mean, it was expensive, man. And I'm not talking about spending like $1,000, and that's expensive. Like everything's expensive today with inflation. So I don't want to sound like I'm not grateful, but I was able to get who I needed to the game. From my high school coaches to all my family, to my close ones. You know, um, can't really throw a figure out there, but I know I
Oh
spent
no,
over.
I would never ask that. That's not,
No, but
yeah.
I want to put it like I don't mind putting it out there, but I'm sure, positive it was over 50 grand.
Wow. And I know you had gotten paid around that time, but I mean that might have been a drop in the bucket at the time. But
Yeah, because I mean, when you think about flights, like everything's inflated during Super Bowl. So, like to get my mother and I got four siblings, and to get certain people to games, like it was like, I mean, the tickets were one thing, the flights were another.
and then you had to
Then the
find a
stay was
place to
another.
stay.
So it was like, I mean, yes, we did have the, you know, family, friends, rooms and stuff like that. We had the hotels that we could put people in with families. So yeah, but it was expensive. It was expensive. Trust me, you
I'm
don't want to
sure.
go to the Super Bowl and lose. You don't want to go and lose. That's an expensive trip and a long ride home.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's at least one set of players and families got to experience that every year. I wanted to ask you, other than the game itself, what was your most memorable moment that you had down in New Orleans during that whole process? Was it getting off the bus going into the stadium for the game itself, or was there like a pivotal moment that you knew in the week that you would never forget? I mean, it's all unforgettable, but was there something that stands out to you for that Super Bowl week itself?
Yeah, you know what? Shoot, during that week, I met Serena Williams.
That's awesome. That is
Like
absolutely awesome.
Bryant McKinney, um, great teammate, and he's very good friends with the Williams sisters. And you know what? Going back on it, like today, being able to say that I met Serena Williams like during the week of Super Bowl, like that greatness right there is like, I mean, that's a to meet another greatest of all time in my eyes, like is
Can't beat that.
pretty
That
special during Super Bowl week. But that's the crowd that shows up, for Super Bowl. So I mean, it was definitely an iconic moment. That today that I'm sitting back like I have nothing to really memorize that, but it was like it was a surreal moment. Like it was like wow, like right here, like so. Yeah, you don't get like I mean when stars get starstruck, I mean it's a big deal.
I can
I never
imagine.
even referred myself as a star, but it was like I'm playing in the game and I'm
You're
here
the
like
starting
nah.
running back in the Super Bowl. You're a star.
Yeah, like I mean, but
Come
I'm
on,
a
man.
humble approach. I'm just like I just like wow, like that's Serena Williams. Like that's a big deal.
That would be absolutely crazy. Now, I wanted to ask you something about the game, and I know that you've probably gotten this question plenty of times. And I'm just going to flat out ask you: do you believe the power outage was an inside job? Because we were blowing
Look,
them out.
yeah, looking back on it, I mean, it sounded like a. I mean, you would think it sounded like that because of the momentum they got from it, but nah, I think it was definitely something faulty. But
They just had
you
a
know,
25-minute Beyonce concert during halftime.
yeah, I mean, listen, they had Beyonce, they had Alicia Keys. There was a lot of star power in there. Like so, I mean, I don't know. I read all the stories, seen all the backup generator and all that stuff. I understand all that stuff, but do I think someone actually did that? No, I don't think.
It, it, it
I don't think you get. I don't think like what. do you gain out of doing something like that?
Now, the skeptic in me, to answer that, Ray, the skeptic in me is saying, okay, the second half is starting. Jacoby takes it to the house on the ensuing kickoff. And this might look like the first Ravens Super Bowl where we run them out of the stadium, only this is being the 49ers instead of the Giants. And that's how you lose eyeballs. And losing eyeballs means you're losing money. So that's the skeptic in me. I understand that out of all the arenas, out of all the stadiums to play the Super Bowl in, the Superdome or the Mercedes-Benz Dome, they were 5 years off of that hurricane. So I can understand there being some faultiness. I wanted to hear what you had to say about it. Uh,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know,
I
the skeptic in me was just like, really, because they came back and almost won, and it wasn't for Jimmy and the defense shutting them down on the goal line. Um, yeah, the skeptic was just I'm a little wired with the skepticism sometimes.
listen, all I know is fate was on our side, man. Like we got it. Look, like,
It
we, we
really
we got
was.
some, we got something that matters. I got my replica Lombardi over here somewhere, man. It matters. We
That's
got it.
awesome. That's awesome. One of the things I've really liked seeing is, you holding your daughter post game. I'm sure that was a surreal moment for you. And from one girl dad to another, I'm sure that's something that you'll never forget, amongst many things. What was it like just having your family on the field with the confetti falling and, seeing the stage being put up for the Lombardi trophy? Um, that's something that not many people get to experience. It's probably less than 0.1% of people, of football players in the entire world that get to experience that. What was it like having your family there with you?
Man, it was really surreal because, you talk about a year in review, just prior a year before that, we had suffered a devastating loss to New England. And you know, that was the year. It was really, really, everything happens for a reason because it was like, man, we lost to New England, but my daughter was born a week later. And it was like had we went to the Super Bowl, my wife and kid wouldn't have been at the game,
Right.
because my daughter was being born. Like I would have had a very tough Super Bowl week.
I'm sure you would have. You would probably had to
Like
miss
I would
something.
have had to miss something, and my daughter was born January 30th, so it was like I would have missed something.
Happy belated
And
birthday to your little
yeah,
lady.
so yeah, so a year in review, I'm at the hospital, and a year later, I'm rolling around in confetti with her. So I mean, that's a beautiful situation.
I can imagine, and it was nice to see that team win. The offense had arguably the best 4 game stretch in the history of the franchise, and I kind of wanted to ask you about some of the current Ravens stuff going on. Now you're on 105.7 The Fan every Wednesday. I text you and I let you know. I make sure I listen to your segment, whether it's on Odyssey or I'm on the way home from work. Um, we mentioned pre-show talking about the rivalry in the AFC North and how it's not the same with the Steelers. Do you think it's lost its luster now that your generation of Ravens and Steelers are currently retired from the league?
Yeah, I think a lot of things happen. I mean, the one thing that I'm proud to see though, like you got two great coaches that they don't matter the record. They're gonna have their teams ready to play. I had mentioned that Steelers week this year, and but a lot of the rules change and the game has changed too. I think we got to watch that over the last couple of years with Ben Roethlisberger. Like, I mean, great. Like he went out the way he was supposed to go out, but that wasn't the Ben Roethlisberger I played against. That wasn't the same guy. He was definitely trimmer, which obviously that works today's game. But I remember just game planning for them, and they were saying you got to tackle Ben's throwing arm because he's that strong. He could fling you off of you. And next thing you know, you got Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, or somebody running down the field. And on defense, man, I just remember being in that stadium, hearing that song come on, man. They got them towels waving, and listen, I've been on the other end of it where them towels wave, and next thing you know, it's a sack fumble. But I've also been on the side where the song come on, and we have a big play, and so it's man, it's different, man. That the teams are different. I think the mentality of the teams are the same, but the game is just different.
So you do believe that the Ravens have the same edge as though of the 2010 teams and
Yeah, I think because we run the ball, like they want to run the ball. Like I think that like we had our philosophy was run the ball effectively. We get a couple chunk plays, but if we scored more than 21 points, we were going to be tough to beat because of our defense.
and that's interesting you say that because I'm just a normal fan, super fan. I was brave enough to take the step to do content creation, but it seems like up until Roquan got here that the defense lacked a little extra fire. And I know Marcus Peters brought some of that, but the defense that we won the Super Bowl with 10 years ago that you were a part of, the whole team. They had Ed, Ray, Haloti, Terrell, McPhee, and Kruger were young dogs. You had Art Jones in the middle. It was just so many guys on that team that had a chip on their shoulder, and it felt like we were lacking that for a little bit. But Roquan seems to have brought that back to the defense. And I know on offense, I know it's got to be surreal for you to watch the team now because there's a running back on our team that's wearing your number. He has your running style, similar build, and he's about just as fast as you were in your prime. What's it like watching J.K. Dobbins?
I've been a fan of his since Ohio State. So like I actually visited him with him at Ohio State. When my ex college coach was there, Greg Schiano, and I've been a fan of his. So to see him here in Baltimore is like it's pretty surreal. Obviously, wearing the number, it looks good. I mean, you want to
It
put another
does.
cherry on top? He was the 55th pick too in the second round, like I was. So
That's
I
interesting.
think
I didn't even realize that.
I think that if we put in destiny and we're putting a lot of faith and spirituality behind it, like it was divine for him to be here. And I love everything that he's doing. I love his tenacity. I truly do, want that guy to succeed because at the end of the day, I mean, I know what it's like to be on the other end of not being 100%, but you want to be out there. Like I had a leg injury too, my last year, and so it's frustrating. So I felt this pain this year. But you did mention the defense, man. Like our defense, it's hard to mention any other defense, like besides the 2000 team and those guys. Like I would never mention the 2000 team because they're Super Bowl champions. So it's hard to really compare there
Mm-hmm.
because we're both winners. But when you mention our defense, just think about how many Hall of Famers is on that team.
There was a lot.
Like that's enough. You just mentioned Ray, Ed. I mean, Halodi's going to be one. Suggs is
Suggs,
going to be one. I mean,
absolutely.
there's guys that's. I mean, that's four. Shoot, I mean,
You got Webby that could, that had that
there's
trajectory
a, there,
before
there's some
injuries.
guys. There's some guys that now could our defense could Roquan Smith be all like like they got a bunch of all pro guys that are going to make a big difference for our team, and hopefully they will be Hall of Famers. But when you think about that set, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it like where my team, that team, certified five Hall of Famers when you add Marshall Yonder on the offense.
And I would say 6 if you think about Anquan Bolden.
Anquan, yeah, I'm saying I could keep
Yeah.
going, but I'm saying like right away, well, Anquan's definitely gonna be a Hall of Famer. I think I mean I don't care. You play with that many Hall of Famers on one team, you're gonna have a chance to do something special. Like they're gonna be Hall of Famers. There's no ifs ands buts about that.
Speaking of the 2012 team again, other than the Super Bowl, obviously, was the New England game the most satisfying victory for you along the way,
It
or was it,
was.
or was it beating
Nah,
Peyton Manning?
to be honest with you, the whole ride of the playoffs was surreal. But to go week by week. It was like, all right. I mean, we knew that it was going to be Ray's last ride. So you think about it. We play the Colts. Then we go out and play Denver. And it is freezing out there.
Is the altitude really that bad on top of the cold?
Man, listen, it was freezing. That's all I can say. Put it like this. It was so cold that game. It was so cold that if you poured water on your jersey, it froze.
Well,
Like you could literally hit it. You could hit it, and icicles would come off of it.
you were gangster with it though, right? You never wore any sleeves
Nah,
under
no
your
sleeves.
jersey. Yeah,
No
you did.
sleeves.
You did the arm length rug burn tape. That's about it. You never really did the.
I ain't even have that.
I don't ever remember you wearing sleeves. I know a lot of dudes wore sleeves, and you weren't one of them. Um,
Nah, it was a rule. It was a low key hidden running back rule. I mean, at least for us. I mean, for me, like, I didn't believe in wearing sleeves. Like I felt like, to be honest with you, I just felt like the ball was safer on your skin when I was carrying it. So, like when you have a little baby, man, when you get the baby right away,
yep.
you need that skin to skin contact. So
Hmm.
that's how I felt with the football. Carrying the football was like carrying your baby. So
Man, that was just that was a magical run, and looking. I know you got a chance to watch the 30 for 30. Did it kind of give you a lot of flashbacks to your 2012 season, watching how ESPN formulated the 2000 squad?
yes, absolutely, man. I hope they one day they do a doc on us about that because
That was that was a great run. They very well should.
no,
We
it was
were
great though. Like that team had so much personality though. Like you had Saragusa, all those like it was different, man. That was a different era, but a great team. I mean, to have a young Ray Lewis, you know,
they all look
it
like
was
babies.
yeah. That's why I said, man. Like it was. Think about it, man. I got a chance to play with the older version of Ray Lewis. That I mean, I wouldn't want to compare him to the younger guy because the guy that we had was good enough.
I wanted to ask you about Ray because it was very well documented during the time that you guys spent together that you were very close. How was it for you mentally knowing that Ray was done? And when he announced it, I'm sure he announced it to you guys before he announced it to the media. What
Yeah.
was your? I mean, I'm not going to say you ask you if you cry like a baby, but what was the mentality knowing that one of your mentors on the team was hanging up the cleats at the end of the year?
Well, the sentiment was, yo, it was last ride. It was like ain't going out no other way. Like we had a bunch of, I mean, we had a bunch of strong men in our locker room. Like we had some grown men that we didn't have locker room issues. We didn't have leadership issues. We didn't have none of that. Like so, it was easier for him to come to us to gather us first because we already had our back against the wall approach. So to deliver that to us first, which obviously we knew all that was going to happen, that had to happen. But we ain't have no locker room issues, man. Like that's the thing that separated us. I think we weren't a bunch of individuals. Guys actually hung out with each other. So it wasn't a sob thing for us. It was a we respect this man. Like if we got anything left in the tank, let's lay it all on the line. You got to think about it. Ray missed some games due to that injury.
I think he tore his pec
So,
or his
so my
bicep.
point is, so the whole deal was we got to get back, get him back in the lineup so that he can go out on the field. Like we wasn't about to like go on this run. I mean, it was so special, but it was like, man, we couldn't go on that run without our emotional leader. So I think that you know when it was all said and done, it wasn't sad because it was destiny. It was like, what he's been to the game, what he's meant to Baltimore, what he's meant to the organization, what he still means to the Baltimore Ravens, what he still means to me. And like I mean, we weren't celebrating a funeral, so it was like as much as we could say tears of joy, it was like, yo, I'm glad we got this together. You know why? Because these things are hard to come by. And now look at that. Like I'm here 10 years removed from the Super Bowl and we still here trying to get another one. So that's how special those moments are, and you just don't take them for granted.
And I completely understand that, taking nothing for granted on that ride. I wanted to ask you about the following year in 2013. Was it difficult seeing that team pretty much dismantled?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. It was hard. It was different. Like I said, like
A lot of guys left.
chemistry wasn't there. It was, it was a lot of things shaking up. And I think that, I mean, Super Bowl hangover is real. Like I said, it's real when you got a shorter off season than everybody else, and you got guys that left and quality guys too. It wasn't like, all right, we just lost anybody. Like,
A lot of people left that team.
we didn't just lose a guy that was, you know, a special teams guy. And that's all. It was hard, man. It was hard. Um,
What was crazier for you, seeing Ed Reed in a different uniform? Was that one of the crazier things that you had to see?
yeah, yeah. And Ed's a businessman. I think
Absolutely.
obviously his heart belongs to Baltimore. We know that, but when you listen, we see it all the time in sports today. When you got something to offer, I mean, in basketball, you see it done a lot more because you get a quality veteran there, like a guy like Udonis Haslam. Like what he means to the Miami Heat is phenomenal.
20
But you
years.
got a guy like Ed Reed who still has some gas in the tank. To see him on another team was different, man. And like it was just not something that you wanted to see, while you were here in Baltimore.
I can imagine that 2013 year. That was a overall rough year to be a Ravens fan, and I'm sure it was rough for you guys. It was, like you said, the Super Bowl hangover. But 10 years later, man, you're an ambassador for the team. You're back around the castle. What's it like seeing the guys on the team now? Is it a different experience being the vet that spent his entire career here and watching this team, come together? What's that like being not necessarily an outsider, but a retired player?
But that's the thing, man. Like I mean, be honest with you, I know what it was like to be in their shoes. So I try to be, I'm not the guy that's gonna overly reach out to a guy when he's like, but if I see him, I'm gonna be there for them. I want the best for them on and off the field. And I think that, being back in Baltimore, the one thing that's special for me is that, my son didn't really grow up around the game. My daughter did. So, being able to go to games with my kids and have them experience things like the thing that's really cool to me at this point is yes, they know dad played, but my son like knows Lamar Jackson, like what I'm
That,
saying, like, and it's cool because my son won number 8 in football. He didn't play quarterback; he played running back, obviously. But and I got him a Lamar. We got him a Lamar Jackson jersey for Christmas, and he was so excited because that's who he sees when he's out there, And it was great for him to be like, Dad, Lamar Jackson is my favorite player. I'm like, yes, like. So I think that part of it has been really, really cool for me. That my young kids know that I did it, and I'm able to give them an experience that I once never had. I never been in the NFL stadium as a kid. I never visited none of that stuff. No training camp practices. So my first experience in the NFL stadium was the one I actually played in.
that's incredible. And I wanted to ask you about being back around the guys and all that. You were a part of some fantastic running back rooms. You had Ray. I mean, you had LeBron McClain. You had Hammer. You had Ricky Williams at one point, and then there was Willis McGahee. And now seeing today's team that has J.K. and Gus and Justice Hill, it's got to be like deja vu, and especially with Project Pat at fullback, that's got to be like going back to your prime years, seeing how great this running attack still is.
First and foremost, if I played behind this thing, I would have had. I mean, listen, it's 18 games.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to think about it. All right. So if you take my best year, right? Let's just take it for example, and take my best year and add 2 more games to that. So that would think 1,300 receiving, 1,300 rushing, and 700 receiving.
You might have
So that
broken the
means
all-time record,
so you add 2 more games to that, right?
right?
I definitely have over 1,500 yards rushing,
1,000 passing
and
or
I
receiving.
definitely would have had 8 to 9. Like, all right, I was right at almost. I would have had 900. Whatever that is, that would have been. You add that up, all purpose, it would have been up there with some pretty fantastic numbers.
It's incredible to watch a 315-pound fullback just absolutely clear lanes. And you had Vontae Leach, who was an absolute mauler, and he was 260, 265 ballpark. But that's essentially an offensive lineman with speed right there.
All right.
That's a load right there. And I know you would have probably been licking your chops to have some, because he would have been a guard back in your day.
Yes, but I beg to differ. Vontae Leach. Now, this is listen. I love Pat Ricard. I do. But Vontae Leach was different. Vontae
Different.
Leach was the only person I ever seen crack his helmet during the football game. He hit
Wow,
Patrick Willis. He blocked Patrick Willis. Not in the Super Bowl. We played the 49ers at home on Thanksgiving.
I remember that game.
Man, listen. Go pull up some film on Vontae Leach versus Patrick Willis. And his helmet, his face mask was bent, and the helmet was cracked down the middle. So Vontae was a mobile guard too. It was 40 pounds lighter than Pat Ricard, but he was the strongest. He was brute strong. Like I've never seen Vontae get knocked back. His feet was always moving forward. I was guaranteed to trip for 4 yards if I followed him.
he was a different breed, man. Baltimore is known for their running game, and we've had nothing but first class fullbacks dating back to our first Super Bowl with Sam Gash, all the way through with Ovi and Juice and Lorenzo Neal, and
Like
so
LaRon and Juice were similar, like because they weren't like they were fullbacks, but I mean, you look at Juice's career now, like this today's NFL is what he is like prime for him. Sometimes at the end of the day, like he looks like I mean, if you look at him on the 49ers, he looks like George Kittle.
he does
And they both could block their tails off.
absolutely.
So two different guys, you know, two different guys, similar skill sets at two different positions.
Speaking of the way that the skill set and the positions and all that, do you think that you would have? I know this might be a dumb question, but I've always been told no question is a dumb question. Um, do you think with the way the game is structured now that you would have not only produced even more, but had more longevity with them pretty much policing the violence out of the game?
Yeah, it would have been an adjustment for me too, though, because I ran pretty like I was a guy that actually looked for contact too. So
Yeah,
probably be looking for less contact.
yeah. I just remember you guys didn't really do the whole running out of bounds thing.
No,
You were
I was the guy
Mister
like
Hand in
I
the
was trying
grass.
to. Yeah, I was like, listen, they got a clip of me back in the day. If you go look it up, I mean, there's a guy on the Eagles thought I was gonna stop, and I straight put my helmet right to his chest. Like, and I
Took his
know
will
today
from
that
him.
would be a flag. Like that would be a flag. So I wouldn't want to be. I mean, that'd be like Michael Orr in the movie for excessive blocking. I don't want to get pulled. I mean, I don't want to get a flag for excessive running. So I had to change my game a little bit.
Speaking of your old plays, uh, 4th and 29. I can't go the show without mentioning the 4th and 29. That was probably one of the wildest plays I ever saw as a Ravens fan. Q absolutely lit up Weddle. What was it like being his teammate? Or were you guys not teammates yet? No, I
No,
think. Okay, I think
no,
he came
Weddle
to
was on the charges, but yeah, man, that play was kind of crazy. But
that was Q laid him out, and it was crazy that he just became a Raven a couple years later. That I know it had to be weird seeing him in a Ravens uniform, knowing that he was a part of one of the biggest plays of your career in terms of you know being a YouTube sensation.
yeah, like you know what, but I like Eric Weddle, man. You know what,
Yeah,
he's a
so do I.
pioneer of the game. Like he's really like, like I mean, you play the game and you meet a lot of people, but like he's genuinely like he's genuinely one of the good guys. Like you know what I'm saying? Like he, everything about him just says, you know, he worked for everything that he got in his career. Um, so when you think about that kind of play, right? It's like I feel like I worked for everything I had in my career too. So if it was a game of inches, man, it was like I'm thankful Anquan was on my side, to be able to make that block because had he not been there, you know, I'm probably 3 yards short, because I had done enough to make a lot of people miss.
Yes,
But
you did.
to get that extra bulk there, man, like having Anquan and think about it today, that block would have been a flag.
Because it would have been considered a crackback.
That's my point.
Yeah,
So, like today, that would have been a flag for us. No first down there, no Super Bowl.
that's true.
Period. So,
That's very
I
true.
so let's. I mean, there's no asterisk with that. There's no. I don't know where the play ranks in Baltimore Ravens history, but it got to be up there.
It's up there. It's definitely up there. Uh, I just that was one of those things like you mentioned earlier. That was fate, and it was just fate to bring Eric here a couple years later. To kind of move past your reminiscing of your playing days, Ray. You said that you have some organizations and some charities you're working with. What are you doing off the field to give back these days?
So yeah, man, my nonprofit I work with, it's called Pipeline to Prosperity, the number two. Um, to be honest with you, I work with a lot of at-risk kids, and we got the name Pipeline to Prosperity because I visited a group home before, and one of the guards there was saying that the kids were on the pipeline to prison, and I'm like, yo, if you're in a group home, that's your second chance. Like, you gotta have some hope. So we just took the narrative of saying these kids were gonna be on the pipeline to prison, and now we're calling the pipeline to prosperity. So we work with a lot of young kids to try to prevent them from going down that route, but we also deal with the reentry side of helping someone out that is coming home from prison and needs a plan of action. Like, because a lot of the times when guys come home, you know, if they go back into the neighborhood and they go back into their network, likelihood of them going back, it's going to happen. And one thing we're preaching now is that quite frankly, college is not for everybody. But if ninth and 10th grade, you're good at a trade, man, let's try to get you into a trade. Let's try to get you into a trade school. Like, sports don't have to be everything. And that's the one thing about what I've been seeing lately is that there's a route for everyone. And that's what in the nonprofit world, we just try to figure out a way to navigate between the regular graduation and the NCAA clearinghouse. If you're gonna graduate high school and you know what you got, go forward with it. But if you don't have that plan, then we want to be able to step in and get you into that trade. We want to be able to get you into that position, that internship, that job. So a lot of my team is a lot of navigation, but we do a lot of our teachings come through sports, but we're not preaching sports as the end all to be all. So um, it's nonstop. It's a grind. We do a lot of partnerships. I've done a lot of work with Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Did some work. We do a lot of work with Helping Up Mission, and just continually growing, and that's what I'm most passionate about now, because that's what I feel like I gave Baltimore besides football, and I'm happy to be back in that role of giving.
That's incredible, man. To be completely forthcoming about it, I know the end result of kids that are in those homes that don't make it. I've been working in the state prison system for this is my 13th calendar year, and a lot of the guys that I've come across have been group homes, homeless, or just lost in that kind of shuffle. So it's great to see that you're giving back to that sector of the community, and I'm sure you have a unique perspective because of what you did as a profession. Not many people will make it to the NFL. It's the elite of the elite, and like you said, sports isn't be all end all. So you have the perspective of I made it there, but you can also show these kids that you can be a plumber, you can be an electrician, you can be a carpenter, you can be, you can work in masonry, you can do any type of public servant type of situation. So
Hmm.
I'm sure that it gives you not necessarily an advantage, but it gives you an extra motivation to get to these kids and show them that there's more to life than just trying to be a pro athlete.
Absolutely. Like, I feel like by 10th grade, you should know already. Like, so that we try to get them earlier. But if 10th grade you're failing, man, it's time to figure out a trade. Like, why would you, like, that's not saying you gave up. That's just saying that route wasn't for you. Whereas if we get you into a trade, you get your GED and you go to a trade school, you're not seen as a bad statistic at that point. You're seen as somebody that it didn't work out, so I went this route. And that's the way it goes. Like that's how we teach football. Not every play call that gets called is the right play call. I mean, quite frankly, there wasn't the right play call for 4th and 29. At the end of the day, you have to make the best happen with what you are given. And
You're right.
that's something that we have to, that I've been just really, you know, preparing my life's message around that because I mean, a lot of the kids that I deal with, and if you, like I said, you've been in the prison system, you hear the same thing. You're not hearing nothing different. You're hearing they came from bad, bad neighborhoods, drugs, crime. Like you don't hear that in, you know, affluent neighborhoods. You might have a drug issue, but you're not worrying about your homes. You can leave your car unlocked. Like, I mean, this is just a lot of stuff, that quite frankly, it's just being products of the environment. And it's not the school, it's not a school system fault. It's not, it's a whole system of things that you could bottle up. But the only thing I know is just that if you don't get into those kids early, they will be a statistic. And that's why, that's where the passion is now. And, especially in Baltimore, I love it out here. I'm going to be doing some work in West Baltimore. There's going to be there's a lot of professional athletes in Baltimore. You know, my goal is to help get those kids opportunities over there that, don't have the same opportunity as the kids in the county.
It's an unfortunate truth. I've lived here for my entire almost 34 years of my life, and I've been kind of sandwiched in between the less fortunate areas. I'm a lifelong resident of the Hamden area, and I'm 5 minutes from Edmonton Village. I'm 5 minutes from Greenmount. I'm 5 minutes from downtown, and I'm also 5 minutes from the county. It's depending on which way you go. So it's great to see that you're out in the community and reaching out to the kids that truly need it, and you can decipher that, and you're not just going where an organization tells you to go. That you're going where you think you need to be.
Nah, that listen. The one thing I know is if you want to get something done, you gotta put your feet on the ground. Like these kids today, just being honest with you, regardless of where they are, they're smarter than we think. Off the simple fact that a kid at the age of 10 knows how to run a whole device at this point in their lives. Like when we was in college, Facebook was a school to school thing. We were still on T-Mobile sidekicks and stuff like that.
Two
So
ways.
two ways. So yeah. So I mean, you got
Yeah,
to think about the era of technology, what it's done, for these kids, regardless of where they are in their lives or their financial beings. They are if you give them a chance, these kids are intelligent.
you're
I think
right.
we just became less patient with the process because everything's about right now. And that's what social media did. They're seeing guys that's making a lot of money. But for example, Floyd Mayweather makes a lot of money. Everybody knows that. His team is called the Money Team. But to a young kid that sees Floyd Mayweather, buy they just see him buy the world's
The,
biggest chain,
the
right?
chains and the watches, and
But they never seen the process.
that's where they get lost.
That's where the whole loss is. They've never seen the process. Like we know that, like if anybody watch anything about Floyd Mayweather, you might see him at a club, but you've never seen him drink.
It's true. Very
So
true.
I look at things now just so different. Like, and social media is a trap, man. You see, when you don't get to see the whole process on social media. So what you're seeing is a glimpse. You're actually seeing a edit.
And the end result in that edit.
in that edit. So at the end of the day, it's not about it being good or bad. It's about what we see, what picture frame is put in your frame. Now it's like, oh, I think I could do that. But you don't know this guy. Like you really want to step in there. Floyd Mayweather wakes up 2 a.m.,
Trains until 5,
trains until 5. Like,
and then goes about
like
his daily life, and then trains again for
then
three
trains
more
again.
hours.
Like, so I mean, yeah, you look at it like I mean, you could have the Floyd Mayweather route, or I mean, you can go on another example. Like everybody that's mad at Jake Paul, what you see is the flash.
You don't see what he's doing behind closed doors.
You don't see the training he's doing behind closed doors. At the end of the day, he's doing something because he made his brand of personality. Now, I'm not comparing him to Floyd, but what I'm saying is every time he gives you something, you have not seen the process.
Nope. And he's getting these guys paid while he's doing it.
So I just said, just be mindful of that because social media is not giving you everything. It's a glimpse, all right? Like you got to really check in with yourself and don't buy into the glimpse.
Now, with the kids that you are mentoring and you're helping out, most of them are too young, going by the age that you're talking about, 10th grade and under. A lot of them are too young to really know you as Super Bowl champ Ray Rice. What's it like to be known as just Mr. Ray, or whatever they refer to you as? Is that a nice little change of pace for the day to day life?
Man, I got shirts because I coach these kids. And my first interaction with my son's team, I told them, today is y'all's lucky day. Y'all get to call me Coach Old Man. And they got me a shirt that says Coach Old Man. So I'm Coach Old Man to my son's team. My son is still trying to figure out between coach and dad. So, but that's cool.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
it
sure.
is what it is.
I'm
I tell you,
sure he
man,
is.
you could do
I'm,
whatever you want to call me. Jay is cool, but I'm coach on the field. I'm dad when we get in the car. Like we're not gonna keep bringing this home. Like we need. I don't want that long walk to the car.
I got you. What's it like coaching the kids, because your football background obviously speaks for itself, because you sat in meetings from the time you were in high school and all the way through college and then into the NFL. What's it like having to pretty much turn that off and just teach kids the basics? Is it a hard transition?
Nah, just to be honest with you, it's like it's put it like this: football is not hard at this point, just based on the years and experience. Your patience has to be different.
Okay.
So, like, so I have two different age groups. So last year I had 5 year olds that turned 6. Right now I had 11 year olds that went to 12. My 12 those kids is running like you would like. I mean, we're running. We're not just no cookie cutter team. Like they're running full blown check with me spread offense, like running like we're running an NFL system. Like we have
That
our scripts. We do everything.
that's
Now with the
intense.
5 and 6 year olds, it's like all right, man. Like we're teaching them, but believe it or not, with flag football, this is the greatest thing that ever. My flag football practices, besides warming them up and doing things, when I wanted to teach flags on how to pull flags, all I did was do gym class games. We played sharks and minnows with flags.
That's amazing. My wife would appreciate that. She teaches kindergarten,
That's what I'm
and
saying. We played, put the flags on, like may the last man win. Come back. That's 20 minutes of practice of guys having fun.
that's I'm just thinking. My daughter's 5, and I'm like trying to coach a bunch of 5 and 6 year olds. That's got to be
You
like
gotta
sensory
just get
overload.
creative, man. Yo, it's
Sense
creative. You don't worry about the football part of it. The football part of it will take care of itself. I didn't have to worry about blocking and doing all that stuff. Like, no, let's get the kids in the right position. Like, so that part of it, like just teaching them how to come to balance and pull a flag was 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 the best. Obviously offense came easy. So teaching them how to take a handoff. Now we're doing one-on-ones, but we're pulling flags after the handoff. Guy, you got within 5 yards to make a guy miss. You
So it's like
know,
shotgun alley almost
yeah.
with
Listen,
flags.
bite the hip.
Um, with your 12U team, is it all the kids that are all of your players the kids that are in your program, or do you allow outside kids to come onto the team?
No, I think we had some outside kids. Uh, Last year we won the state, so that was a big win. Pikesville Wildcats.
Okay,
We're looking to listen. It's never easy. Like the year before, we went and lost the state. Last year, we came back and won. Um, but we run a well-oiled machine. It's there's no favoritism. At the end of the day, guys are being challenged at practice. Not only being challenged at practice, they're being challenged in school. Like, listen, you mess up in school, you don't play. Like, there's no such thing as like getting out on that field. Like, we can't reward you for screwing up.
you're right. It's important.
We get a school report. You get punished in practice. Like, and it's not. We try to make sure you feel where we're coming from. Like, because what about the guy that's doing it right?
You're absolutely correct.
So we have to, you know, we got to discipline, and it doesn't, and it's not. Like, it hurts you more to come to practice and be like, all right, sit down and watch. Like, that's punishing enough. You know why? Because the guy that is depending on you, you're not there. He's
That's
got to
true.
somebody else in that spot. Now he got to coach that person up and do his job. So you just made his work double. So that's
Yeah,
the kind of stuff that we're teaching. We're teaching next man up, and quite frankly, that's how we've been able to get depth at positions, so that when we put somebody in the game, we're not saying, "Oh, that guy's in." No, we're running the same play. They need to learn it all.
well, it's fantastic that you are able to reach these kids through multiple different avenues, whether it's sports or off the field. Um, Ray, thank you for giving me this hour, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit down and chat with you. Before I let you go and we hit the post production off air, let everybody know where they can find your charity organizations online. Let them know where they can find you if you happen to have any social media
Oh
sites
yeah.
yourself.
Oh no. Definitely. We'll go. Our web presence is getting put up. We're gonna be pipeline the number two prosperity.com, and for updates and stuff like that, we're gonna put them on the website. You can stay in tune with Jimmy's the Famous Fund, because we do a lot of work with them, and but we'll be broadcasting ourselves. We'll have our social media presence and all that stuff once you know we're getting some things hammered out. But this is the year. This is the year where
That's great.
we're gonna put. Now I'm gonna put the flag down in the Baltimore community and make it happen.
That's that's sorry about that. We got a little bit of a technical malfunction, Ray. My apologies. Um, I appreciate everything you're doing for the community, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing with the pipeline and turning things around in the city. I know there's constant turning over with new leadership going on, but if one thing remains a constant, it's that you continue to do the work that you're doing in the community, and I really appreciate you coming on. I look forward to hearing your Wednesday nights at 5 with Tim and Jason and Ken, and thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate you giving me some of your time, Ray.
Oh no, I appreciate it, man. With recommendation from the good guys, we got to make it happen.
Yeah, thank you, man. Just hang tight.